So I'm going to go ahead and reschedule that. We're going to go ahead and do that for you again on Friday. So the link to register that as well will be going out in that same email. So you'll be getting all of those at the same time. Just trying kind of keep your inbox not as busy, hopefully, ideally. So today we're going to be talking about how you can customize your display. So everybody's looking for branding their booth with their logos and all that good stuff, kind of customizing it a bit so it doesn't look like everybody else is out there. So we're going to discuss kind of what your options are, how to do it, all that good stuff here in just a few minutes. So what we're going to be doing today is spending a lot of time kind of in our Windows folders, in our social booth assets folder, playing around in there a little bit, and then I'm going to show you a bit in the software of how to adjust all. Let me see if I can just pop up my mic a little bit. Okay, let's try that. Let me know if that works any better for you. Okay, so now I don't know how familiar you guys are with the assets folder. So that's always going to be contained within the program files for Social Booth. So it's going to be in C, program files, photo booth, social booth, and then assets. So this is where you can all find it always, all the time. So there's that kind of that path for you. So within that, the first thing we're going to play around with is going to be our backgrounds, because that's kind of the most visual component that everybody can see. So let's say we want to change the backgrounds. Well, we have a few options for you. You can either do it as a permanent change, or you can do it as a temporary for one event change, right? And then you can also do it, say you want to change one file, or you want to change them all for each event. So we're going to kind of go through all those little separate configurations and show you how to make those changes. So the easiest thing to do is going to be change them all, right? So I want to change them all for a specific event. So I created a new screens background here on my desktop. You can see I've kind of got one as we're doing an event for Coach. So you can see this would be my new capture background. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure that they're always going to be 1920 by 1080 in a PNG format. Now, if your monitor is smaller than 1920 by 1080, you still want that file size as 1920 by 1080, but you want all of your design elements to be within the resolution of your monitor. So you may have, say, 500 pixels on the side that have no design elements in it. The system's going to be looking for that 1920 by 1080 file, but you want to be able to see all of your design elements on what you're displaying. So if you think of it, it's kind of going from the middle out, so you just want to make sure that you're designing within that middle. Does that make sense to everybody, or do you have any questions on that? Okay, great. So let's say we now want to go ahead and make all of our, oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question on the designing for a smaller resolution? Sorry, I'm just waiting for the question to come in, you guys. Give me one more second. Okay. If you want, we can head back to that later on as well. I've got a quick troubleshooting or a how-to on it that I'm trying to find real quick here in the background. That has a kind of a picture of what we're looking at, but we can pop into Illustrators and I can show you that once we get through everything else. If we're going to go ahead and change all of our backgrounds for one specific event, the easiest way to do that is going to be to go into your display, check the backgrounds folder box, and then change what folder it's pointing to. So right now, if I just select my new screen backgrounds and hit save and start, make sure the camera's on. No matter how many times you've done it, you can still forget to turn on that camera, huh? Sorry guys, it gets a little slow when I'm projecting, when I'm recording, sorry. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on. My system's been a little weird since I was doing some testing earlier in the week and replaced a few files. So let's go ahead. We're just going to go ahead and quit. But one of the things you want to make when you're doing the new backgrounds and you're going to point to a new folder is that your backgrounds are all saved with the same name. So if you're going to go ahead and replace them, you're going to want to make sure either that it's named the same or that we point to the files individually. So let's go ahead and show you how to point to the files individually. So this would be most useful if you're going to replace, say, a single image or something like that, and it's only going to be temporary. So the reason we want to do this only if it's going to be temporary and for one event is going to be because if you ever click that reset to defaults button, it's going to reset where these files are pointed to and go back to the social booth defaults. So we want to make sure that if we do point to them separately, that we either time or you're just going to replace them. So if you wanted to say adjust just one background, so let's say the start background, you could click on it, and then we're going to point to our new background. So new screen backgrounds, and here's my start. So that's going to replace it with my new image that I just told it to use. So within this screen, you could also enable the audio prompts. And then you can also use different files for each of the photo captures. So that 1, 2, 3 button right there is going to say I want you for the first photo to use my first capture. For the second photo, I want you to use my second capture image. So that's going to be what that 1, 2, 3, 4 button is. So does that make sense to everybody, how to replace a single image and why you would only want to do it for kind of a temporary basis? So if you're going to replace the entire folder, you're going to follow the naming that we have in this asset folder. So it's background, that BG dash what file it is. So capture, we've got filter, we've got share. So you can look at the assets folder to pull from this particular name for whichever file you're looking to replace. If you're going to select it within here, so within the advanced configuration, it doesn't matter how they're named. Okay, cool. So now let's say I want to replace all the images on a permanent basis. So every time I update or make any changes or hit reset, I want all my images to stay how I told them I wanted them. So it's going to be with your backgrounds or with your individual buttons. So let's talk about buttons for a minute. Within the assets folder, you have a buttons folder. This is going to be kind of where you see all those images. So the print button that they can hit, the photo and video images that are your start images, Twitter, sharing, post to Facebook, all of these things are customizable as well. So these are going to be PNG files, and it can be whatever size you want them to be. I suggest kind of sticking around the same size as what's in there for each of the images, but you can always replace these as well. Now with the backgrounds and the buttons, you can also use flash files, so that are going to be, they're going to have a bit of animation to them. So you can see our email button here kind of glows a little bit. So if you have these flash files in the buttons or the backgrounds folders, that's always going to take control. So if you don't want your icons to flash a little bit, or you do want to replace them with something that's branded or something for a corporate client that has their logo on it, it says email over that, or something like that, you would want to remove these flash buttons out of here because those are always going to take control. You can either just delete them out, or if you want to save them, let's say it's for a particular event, you can just move them. I always just create a folder in here, and then make it like extra buttons. Just pull the flash buttons into that folder for when I'm testing other things. So that won't interrupt anything, it won't hurt anything, but it does give you a place, so that way it's right where the buttons should be. If you want to pull them out, you can just put them back. So if we do want to replace either our backgrounds or our buttons on a permanent basis, we're going to want to make sure for this one that they are absolutely named the new thing. So the email, the print, let's say I wanted to replace camera button. I would want to rename it photo.png. Oh, I think I've already got a photo button on here. Let's go ahead, we can move it into the folder. Because it's in your C drive, it may request permission to make changes, but as long as you just give it that permission, that's no problem. So we're going to delete that out, and now we can rename it photo right in here. And that's it. That's all you need to do for either your backgrounds or your buttons to be replaced permanently. So if you do upgrade and you're downloading the new software, it's rewriting everything, what it's going to do is look for those files in your software. It's going to look for that photo.png. It doesn't care if it's the same thing, but it's got to be in that folder. So if it sees that it's already in that folder, it's not going to rewrite that file. So that's why you're going to do this for a permanent basis change. Does that make sense to everybody? And again, I feel like I'm talking really, really fast, so feel free to call me out and be like, Jennifer, slow down a little bit. You're getting a little crazy over there. I really will not be hurt if you do. Now, as I said, everything with the buttons and the backgrounds are all completely customizable. So you can replace them, you can change them, whatever you want to do. One of the other things you can do is move all of your buttons and the placement of things. So let's go ahead and pop back into the software real quick. And we're going to show you how to do that. As you can see, I always use the trial version because with testing, I install and uninstall about 13 times a day. So it's always a test version for me here. So we're going to go ahead and pop back over to our display tab. Now that photo button that we just replaced with that new camera image, you can do a few things with it. You can resize it. You can change the placement of it. If I wanted it to be right at the top corner, I could change my width and height to 0, and that's going to put it right at the top left corner. So it's, or I'm sorry, width and height is going to be the size of the image. Getting a little crazy over here. The left and the top is going to be what's going to move it for you. So the 0, 0 is going to put it right at the top left corner. If you're using a smaller resolution monitor, let's say a 1024 by 768, you're going to have to account for those little extra pixels that you're not displaying. So it might be left 547 and it's right at the end of your monitor. The other thing you can do is set up a hotspot. So if you wanted to build into your background image a section of it where you can touch, let's say it's your logo or something like that, you can go ahead and click the hotspot button, and that's going to allow it to just be an image on your background. It doesn't have to be a specific separate button. So that's going to give you kind of that photo and video button that you can move. The live view is going to be that window that the user can see themselves in. So you can resize that if you're using a Rebel or a webcam. If you're using one of the old PowerShots, you cannot resize the live view. But you can change the size of that as well as the position. You can have the live view if you click on auto start, and then if touch for photo or video, they'll touch the live view and that'll pop up that photo start sequence. You can also have a border around the live view, and it's also going to be around your photo preview at the end as well as the sharing preview. It's going to appear there as well. It's just going to be a little white border that makes it a little defined. You can also have a pop-up window at any point in the countdown. So let's say 2 seconds out, I want my message to say, look at the camera. And what that's going to do is going to pop up right on the screen, and it's going to say, look at the camera for the last 2 seconds. So if you're having a problem with people that are staring at the screen instead of looking up at the camera, that's one way to do it. If you're looking for additional branding opportunities at a corporate event, you could put something in here that's like, say, I love Skechers shoes, that pops up on the screen. And what that's doing is it's getting your guests to interact more with the brand, or at least see a different branding opportunity than a commercial or something that these kids today are getting smart to. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I was losing my voice a little bit. If you were having a hard time getting the live view bigger, did you change it here in the width and height? Or did you change it here? Because this one down here is going to be for the width of the border, whereas this one up here is going to be the pixel size of that live view window. Yes, absolutely. So let's go ahead and do an example. If I can let's go back to my defaults first. Like I said, I play with my sets quite a bit, so it's always safest for me to go back to my defaults and then start from scratch. So let's say I wanted to make my live view the entire screen. So I'd be 1920 by 1280, and then I would do 0 and 0. Let's go ahead and make sure my camera's connected. Let's start her up. And once I hit that camera, you can see my entire screen is now the live view. As you can see, my camera is also on the floor in a corner, so you get a picture of a speaker and Scrabble. Did that help? Okay, yeah, try it again, and if you aren't able to get it, shoot me a note at support and we'll take a look. So the other thing is with the share screen. So once they click on their photo, they're done, they get to that share screen, you can move where everything is at. So the back and done buttons, which are typically upper left and upper right corner, you can move those to a different spot, whether it fits in better with your new background design that you're going to try later this week. Or if it's kind of interfering it, we've got those touch spots in the top left and the top right for reprints and getting back to the settings. So maybe it's interfering with that and people are getting a little too close to the corners. You can move those there. And it's the same thing. You can change size and position as well as creating a hotspot on the screen. So if you prefer a hotspot instead of an actual button. So maybe you want to allow guests to be able to take their photos over, so that allows session retakes, but maybe you don't want them to know that it's there. So you can have a back button that's just a section of the screen using that hotspot, and then the button won't display. But if they do get done and they're like, I don't like my photo, you can't give that to the bride and groom, I didn't realize if I moved the camera you could keep it. You could always just hit that back touch spot and get rid of those photos. It'll take you right back to start. The preview section is going to be the preview window of their photo. So if you want to move that and resize it, same thing, it's after each photo is where that one's going to be. So let's go ahead. We're going to run through a sequence here in just a minute. So let's go ahead and make this really quite a bit smaller, and we can see where that's at. We'll leave the back button as a hotspot. And let's go ahead. We're just going to leave the photo and video for right now because I don't have a new button to replace that. One of the other cool things that we have is going to be the thumbnails. So with these, it's going to take a thumbnail of each photo as they are taken and put it on the screen. So you can choose if you want it horizontal or vertical, and then you're going to choose where to start it, how big to make it, and the spacing. So we'll go ahead and show you that. So let me go ahead and we're going to make this one, let's do this 200 by 200 as well. Oops, 200, not 20. So that way I can show you a little bit about what we're talking about. Let's go ahead, save and start. So you can see we've got our new tiny little live preview over here. This is going to be my new preview window that we moved and resized. And this is going to be my first thumbnail. And there's my second one. So it's really cool. If you build into your design kind of a vertical positioning of the thumbnails, you can actually put your layout, if you design a background with the layout on it, have it so that it actually looks like it's building the strip, which is really, it turns out really kind of cool. And again, that's one of the things that it takes you, a couple minutes to put together, but in the eyes of your client, it's really quite valuable. So here we've got our photos. I selected my filter. I moved where my preview is, and then I've got my custom done button spot there as well. The one thing in this design or in the software that you cannot move, that is not able to be moved, is going to be these share buttons at the bottom. So your email, Facebook, Twitter, print buttons, or text and print buttons. The reason that you can't move those is because they are hard-coded, since you can customize based on internet availability. So let's say you lose your internet at an event. The Facebook and Twitter buttons are going to automatically remove themselves as an option. So if you've got user Facebook, user Twitter, it doesn't work without internet because we can't save their passwords and they can't log in without internet. So these buttons are going to automatically remove for you. Once you get internet back, they're going to pop back up for you. So if you are in a place that has kind of somewhat added or kind of wonky internet capabilities, you don't have to worry about them hitting that Facebook button and then not being able to log in. So that's why you can't adjust those, just so that you have that information and it doesn't seem like we're just not willing to do it. It's because it's there for a reason. Did you guys have any questions at all on like the pieces that you can customize, or how with regards to actually how the stuff displays on the screen? Okay, I don't see anybody chatted me, so that's great. I'm glad that you guys are kind of on board with it. I have a few more minutes because we were going to try and keep this one to 30 minutes. So the one thing I did want to talk to you about is portrait photos. Sorry, a portrait display. That is actually extremely easy to do. It seems kind of complicated. It's actually really, really easy. We've got it built in so that the system is going to auto figure out what orientation your monitor is. So if we go into our display settings, all we have to do is change our orientation of our monitor to portrait. Now, if you have a tablet that's going to auto kind of figure it out for you, that's great. That'll work, and it'll automatically kind of figure out those backgrounds for you. Give me a minute. For some reason, I cannot figure out the mouse when I do that. So let me that one more time. There we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and find social. Let's see. Oh, this is my second monitor, so let's see if it'll work for me. The monitor, it's not going to work for me. Anyway, it will auto find it if it's your first monitor, which you should be using. Or at least check, make this my main display, and it'll auto figure for you. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't think that through. If you are going to do portrait display with portrait photos, you do want to make sure that you have your camera physically turned to the side. So that way it's actually taking the portrait photos. Out of time, did you guys have any questions at all that I could answer for you while you've got me? Okay, cool. With that, I am going to let you guys go. Thank you again so much for joining. There's going to be a little survey that pops up at the end. If you guys could please be honest, I would appreciate it. Let's see, is there a way to make the picture look portrait while the camera is horizontal? Let me actually get back to you on that one. I want to check with my guys and make sure that they don't have an easier way than the way that I'm thinking about it, but I'll shoot you an email later today. And I just gave you the link. We're posting all the videos out on the YouTube channel, so I just gave you the link in the chat for that as well. And they'll all be out there, so you can access them anytime. You don't need the links in the email. But if you're free, Friday, I want to say it's 10:30 Eastern is going to be the next social booth walkthrough part 2. And I think once you close out, it's going to give you a list of some of the other available trainings. So feel free to register for the ones that pique your interest. I'd love to have you guys again.